Mamma Mia Pizzeria. I just took a sip of the drink that I made myself for this video, and there is more vodka in it than I anticipated. So, hello. Congrats to you and I for making it to the end of this fuckfest of a year. By the way, do you like my lighting setup? It is pitch dark outside right now, and it's like 6 p.m., which is extremely hot and sexy. I had to like put a lamp on, but because I didn't want to be overexposed, I had to point the lamp at the wall so the wall light can reflect back on me and make me look something akin to normal. This year has been just really, really painful. I've known a lot of people who went through really traumatic and awful things this year. The common thread through all of those things, including the thing that I underwent at the very beginning of this year, has been sadism. 2021 was saved also by a lot of amazing things, though. I actually read more books this year and a higher page count this year than I ever have in any year in my entire life. As of December 16th, I'm filming this a little bit early, I have read 56 books this year, which is more than a book a week, and a lot of them were very big books too. Like, I read Manufacturing Consent. Well, this is heavy reading, but I read Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer, and then I read I read literature. I read Writers and Lovers by Lily King. I read a lot of theory, good and bad. And I reread The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt and The Secret History by her as well. This has been probably the best reading year of my entire life. For the first time, I do not have like a massive stack of unread books in my house. I have kind of two. One that I'm ignoring. Unread books sitting out over on my table over there. I have had repeatedly the glorious experience of running out of books to read and having to wait anxiously and check the tracking anxiously on the books that I've ordered and that are coming in the mail, because I've just been reading so fast. I think so far this year, I've read something like 15,000 pages. I think the highest number of pages that I have read before this year was like 14,000. I don't even know what's different, because we know on this channel I was an English major and I loved my major. I did all of my reading, and yet I've read more this year when I have like a real full-time job and like a social life, and I'm like actually consistently working on my novel. And I read more now than when I literally was basically like reading as a job. Oh, and by the way, listen, I'm not trying to be like that, but I'm just saying that all of them were physical books except for like 2 ebooks. 0 audiobooks are included in that. So anyway, for this video, I wanted to go through my absolute favorite things that I read. Let's get into my 5-star reads of 2021. This is the best of the best. My recommendations for you to go out and buy it and read it immediately. The first 5-star read that I want to recommend is one that I've talked about at great length on this channel. This is Jaron Lanier's 10 Arguments for Deleting Your Social Media Accounts Right Now. I promise it's not a self-help book. This is an intellectual argument. Jaron Lanier is extremely down-to-earth. He's the Silicon Valley tech guy, and he is very, very anti-social media. He, I feel like, explains it better than most digital society critics do. He really knows how to take extremely complex, like high-level, like concepts about the internet and the way social media is built and structured, and like kind of pare it down to its like simplest form so that it's easier to explain to people and easier for the average like not tech-minded person to understand. It's just a glorious argument. It's so good. He's just got such a good energy. He's a very good-spirited, kind of like gentle dude. If you've ever seen him or heard him in interviews, like that's just the vibe. It's a soulful argument. It's not based on puritanical, like, useless restriction. It is actually, like, for the sake of society's good and for being a good person And for the sake of not participating in this really fucked up, surprisingly not illegal thing and all these really fucked up business practices, like, here's why you should leave. And he's clever and funny about it, and it's just it's not preachy. It's not like woo everything digital or internet related is evil. It's a very, like, directed argument, and that is why I've got to recommend it to anybody who will read it. It's just a glorious read. Next thing that I want to recommend is not quite so gentle and optimistic as the previous book. This is The Darkening Age, The Christian Destruction of the Classical World. This is without a doubt one of my favorite nonfiction, if not my favorite nonfiction that I've ever read in my entire life. I have never read like a historical, like factual chronicle written like this that was so readable before. Like, this is immensely readable. She writes it like it's a story. This author, I believe, was raised, let's see, her mother was a nun and her father was a monk, and she was brought up Catholic. Basically, what she does in this is she takes like a pagan perspective to the triumph of Christianity, and she describes what it would have been like to live there and watch the fall of your temples, watch the burning of your libraries, which were kept in the temples where the gods were. There's a lot of just like what it would have felt like what did pagans like think about their gods, and how would the triumph of Christianity have looked like and felt to them. I will warn you, there is one extremely disturbing account from it. Well, there's several very disturbing accounts of violence that actually happened in this, angry mobs, and one where a woman, the mathematician Hypatia, if you know what happened to Hypatia, like, that is, I think, the thing that, like, just chilled me, like, to my spine. I feel like this is just so educational, and there's a lot of stuff, too, about how Christians were less persecuted in Rome than the religion says that they were. So there's like a difference between historical event and what, like, you know, the Bible, etc., and Christian legend says happened. So she gives a lot of accounts of like Roman, you know, politicians or whatever, just like begging Christians, like, listen, just make the incense offering so that I don't have to, you know, get you in trouble, basically. And, you know, them just refusing to do it. And it's a very, like, you know, you can say that's good or bad, but it's just an amazing, like, nuanced perspective of what things actually were like back then. And it complicates things, because I feel like if you've been brought up Christian or in like a Christian environment or a predominantly Christian country, the narrative is like, oh, the pagans were stupid and did human sacrifice and animal sacrifice and were, you know, dumb and liked to kill things for fun and blah, 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 blah. And the Christians showed them enlightenment and were willing to do that at all costs. When in reality, it is so much more complicated. This was just fascinating. I couldn't stop reading it. Highly, highly recommend. It's just such an amazing triumph of empathy towards people who are different and who practice different religions than what we are familiar with. This is Hand to Mouth, A Chronicle of Early Failure by Paul Auster. I read this in the actual, like, memoir part of it in a single sitting on my balcony in summertime. It's what perfectionists need to read. This is basically the story of this young writer. All he wants to do is write. There is nothing else he wants from life, and it's about him and being a failed writer from like his 20s to his 30s. And obviously now the fact that this is published and many of his other works are published shows that he is a very renowned and appreciated author and writer now. He tried to make like a card game that was like, I don't know what it was called. It was like Awesome Baseball or something like that. He works at like an oil rig at some point, awkward money situations, and him and his wife being just down to the wire, bankrupt. We live in a society that is very, very afraid of failure. I think it's magnificent and refreshing to read something that's about, like, yeah, my writing used to suck. It's something that every precocious 20, 30, whatever, like, year old just needs to read. Sometimes you just suck at the thing that you love, and it's okay. And sometimes the world sucks and it won't let you do the thing you love, and you know, that's how it goes, isn't it? And you just have to keep moving. Finally, I have a fiction to recommend to you. This is The Power by Naomi Alderman. This is the book that prompted me to create a new Goodreads shelf called Feminist Rage Fantasies. This book is basically about women worldwide suddenly getting the power to electrocute. We have some kind of hidden organ right here at our collarbone that gives us the power to electrocute with just a touch of the hand. It was just good kind of like feminist commentary, I felt, because they weren't so much like powered up that they could do anything. It was basically like, oh, we now have a counter to men's just like superior muscular strength. In fact, now suddenly we're the ones who are like overpowered. It is not like, oh, and then the women took over and it was all flower and blah, blah, blah. Like, no. You know, like the rape statistics flip, the domestic violence statistics flip. The first revolts happen in countries where women are extraordinarily oppressed. So think like places in the Middle East. And then in the United States, everyone is trying to be very PC about it, and they're like, oh, we're just gonna, make these, training camps so girls can learn to control their power better. A lot of glorious political commentary. It's very kind of funny and tongue-in-cheek at times. Like, men's media groups start to form, so they can all watch movies together that have strong male protagonists, because they're just like, isn't that in media anymore? Yeah, I highly recommend this. Even if you don't agree with it, I think that it's a well-written, like, hypothetical scenario. So, just excellent speculative fiction. Sorry, I need a drink. Oh my god. That's vodka. All right, I have another nonfiction. I think this might be my favorite thing that I read this year, and I think this book kind of saved my life in a lot of ways. This is all about love. New Visions by Bell Hooks. I have an entire video about this book and about what it means to me and what I think it means and the most important takeaway points in it. It's a love philosophy book, and it's basically her thoughts on love and living your life based on a love ethic. I had never thought about a lot of this stuff, and I think that this book was very educational for me, and she spoke to a lot of things where I was just like, oh yeah, like that's the thing that I want, that's the way that I want to live my life kind of thing. It's just amazing, and she doesn't shy from talking about like romantic love and like the issues with like being a woman and being like attracted romantically to men in a society where like men, are your oppressors basically, and how to kind of navigate that and how we can build and grow and do better so that everybody has more love in their life. She theorizes, and this is from 2002, but she theorizes that we basically have this kind of chronic lovelessness and that many people are suffering from. It's not just romantic love, it's friendships and even just like casual fond acquaintanceships and mentors and familial love as well. Love of art and love of your work and love of the self. It spoke to exactly the feeling of like something is wrong that I have had for many years now, watching the culture change. It explained it, and I felt very validated. I felt like I'm not crazy for thinking that something is horribly wrong. She also talks about the historical cultural root that she thinks like this all stemmed from, which I thought was fascinating, and I loved that she actually took the time to think about like where did this issue come from. She is a feminist, but she doesn't take as harsh a view of some of the more radical feminist thinkers that I've read. So she is not like, oh, it's not my job to educate you or teach you how to feel and blah, blah, blah. She's like, actually, like, people who, like, women who teach men how to feel are doing important work, actually. Like, you are helping somebody come back to a life that will fulfill them and make them act as a force of good in the world. Like, it's just amazing and refreshing. I can't recommend it enough. Amazing. It's an amazing, progressive but not Twitter progressive analysis of what love is, what we think it is, what it isn't, our chronic lack of it, and how we can do better moving forward. The next thing that I read was A Hoot and a Holler. This is Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. Oh my god, I love Alice Hoffman so much. I think she's one of my new favorite authors because I also reread The River King by her this year. There is something so unique about her writing style and so just utterly romantic. It's adult, but it's so whimsical and strange, and the magical realism is just glorious. This is basically a story about these two sisters who are cursed in love. One of them is just extraordinarily beautiful and is moving from guy to guy like it's nothing. She's always dating these horrible, attractive jerks, and she is so beautiful that men will like look at her while they're driving their cars and will crash their cars. And then the other one is also pretty, but a little bit less interested in love. Like, she just doesn't date at all, but she's smart. She's smart and very hardworking, and she gets her heart broken once, and she swears off of love forever. So one of them has sworn off of love forever, got her heart broken once, and that was enough. The other one gets her heart broken over and over and over again and just like can't stop. There's witch blood in the family. It's not like Harry Potter where there's a magic system or anything. There is just kind of this like witchy, like just ambiance to the book. The cover makes it look like it's a Halloween book. I feel like this is much more of a summer book. There's just a lot of talk about like shorts and hot grass and like cicada garden, yeah, just like that sort of thing. And it's just beautiful. This, I mean, I would put her almost on the level of Donna Tartt in terms of just like the vividness of her descriptions. She's not quite there. It's popular for a reason. It's just awesome and witchy and fun and very, very pretty in its descriptions. We're on to the last book, and it's actually a classic. It's a classic, and it's a very short one at that. This is A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. It's amazing. It's so amazing, and there isn't just a ton that I can say about this except that I think she's just brilliant. I love early feminists so much. And she takes no prisoners with this. It's dignified and it is witty. If you consider yourself a feminist, or if you are just looking to read more feminist theory and just educate yourself on what that word even means, I highly, highly recommend this. It's just an amazing work of philosophy, an amazing work of literature. So, these are all of my 5-star reads for 2021. 7 out of 56 books that I've read so far were 5-star reads, which I think is a pretty respectable ratio. I don't give out 5 stars very liberally. Obviously, like some of the rereads like Secret History and Goldfinch were also 5 stars. I did not count those in this video. This is only a video for the first time reads that were 5 stars that I just like discovered this year. I hope you'll check some of these out. That's all I've got for this video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for considering these awesome books. I'll see you in the next video, and possibly in the next calendar year. Thanks. Bye.